Joe Biden will pull out of 2024 election on health grounds as approval rating plummets. So saith a top JPMorgan strategist. And this may mean nothing. I mean, it's just some guy saying, I think Joe Biden's going to pull out in like 2 months. It may mean everything, considering it's coming from a major financial institution. And, well, they make a living off of speculating on the market and predicting how the market will operate. That is to say, if they're going to come out with a bold prediction like this, it's going to have a massive impact on the economy. And I'm sure they're going to make financial bets on this. But that being said, you never know how these dirty games are played. I mean, this guy could be saying this because it'll cause a bunch of people to dump or short sell certain stocks or behave in a certain way, which can then be exploited by these financial institutions. So it is highly speculative. But I will also point out there is kind of a funny component to something like this, and that is the self-fulfilling prophecy element of the show that I do. Now, it is not lost on me that there are many people who watch the Tim Pool Daily Show programs, which is, this is the opening segment. And that means this guy may have been watching Timcast IRL or one of my shows from several months ago. And then I said, I think Joe Biden will pull out on health grounds. Gavin Newsom will run out. I mean, potential scenarios because Joe Biden's approval rating's in the gutter. I mean, nobody wants to vote for the guy. And Donald Trump is leading by like double digits in many swing states. And so, I say something like that. Maybe this guy watched one of those episodes and was like, yeah, I think Tim's right. And then he goes and says, I think Joe Biden's going to pull out. Then I read that news story from him. You get the point. Like at a certain point, when you're getting a ton of viewership, then it's possible the news stories you're reading about speculation are just based on your own speculation. So who knows? However, considering the confirmation bias for me, I'm going to read this story because I think the guy is right. Now, he made a bunch of other predictions, which are pretty bold, like a boycott of driverless cars. And oh, man, is there a lot to talk about already right there. But the idea that Joe Biden will pull out of 2024 on health grounds is, I actually think, the simple solution. It is actually more conspiratorially minded to me that Joe Biden stays in the race, right? Think about this. Joe Biden, ailing health-wise, losing in the polls, and he stays in. I'm sorry, that defies basic logic and the simple answer here. So it's hard to predict because some people would argue the normalcy bias would be Joe Biden just remaining in the race and then running for 2 terms. But I think that's silly and absurd. We're beyond normal. So normalcy bias is out the window. There's no optimism bias here. Normalcy and optimism bias are typically the 2 biases where people are like, things will just stay as they are. Normal, it's mostly normalcy, but optimism is it can't get bad. No. Like something like that could never happen. But that's the idea that Joe Biden, okay, despite all of his failures, has such a powerful stranglehold in the Democrats that they won't remove him. It's conspiratorial. It is. It's like, I don't know if conspiratorial is the right word, but it's just like far-fetched, okay? Any sane person is going to recognize Joe Biden can't do this. And they need to find an exit for him. So perhaps that exit will be a health issue after Super Tuesday. Charlie writes, U.S. President Joe Biden will pull out of the running for the 2024 election on health grounds, a top JPMorgan strategist has predicted. Michael Semblast, I think it's Semblast, has made 10 surprise predictions for 2024. And number 3 on the list is his hunch on President Biden abandoning his hopes for a second term in office. He added that Mr. Biden will withdraw after Super Tuesday when the majority of states hold primary elections and caucuses. After blaming poor health for the decision, Mr. Biden will let the Democratic National Committee decide who steps in for him for the 2024 election, Mr. Semblast said. The JPMorgan heavyweight added, Biden has a low approval rating for a president with around 10% job creation since his inauguration. Although that figure is the byproduct of his inauguration coinciding with the rollout of COVID vaccines and the reopening of the U.S. economy. Right, so it may as well be 0. Mr. Semblast also believes the president's poor polling will play a big role in his decision. A recent survey by the New York Times and Siena College in November found that just 37% of people say that they trust Mr. Biden with the economy because those people are zombies who don't pay attention to things. That's amazing. Speculation around Mr. Biden's state of mind raised its head again this week after Mr. Biden seemed confused while on stage at Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. David Axelrod, a man who helped mastermind Barack Obama's election win, has raised concerns over Mr. Biden's age, as have many other Democrats. But take a look at this from Axios. And the picture starts getting painted right before your very eyes. November 2nd, 2023. Democrats quietly move to succeed Biden. Do they really? Think about it. It's perfect. How do you bypass the Democratic selection process? Well, the Democrats played dirty games, as we like to say. Remember when Bernie Sanders tried to run? But oh boy, they got superdelegates. You know what superdelegates are? We love it. Look, the Democratic and Republican parties are not public institutions. They're private entities. They are regulated, but sure. The way the Republican primary works, and this is why Donald Trump was able to win, is that, you have primaries and caucuses, and then the states say like, hey, the party says like, we chose this guy. And so Donald Trump wins because he wins the vote. He beat everybody out. Then you go take a look over at the Democrats, and what do they got? They got something called superdelegates. Oh, it's so smart. These are appointed people within the party who have more voting power. They have a super vote than the primaries suggest. In which case, theoretically, when you're looking at any candidate in the Democratic Party, they're going to reach a certain threshold of votes. And then the superdelegates can come in and they can swing it however they want. Let's say you get 60% Bernie and 40% for Hillary. The superdelegates step in and say, we vote Hillary. Hillary then beats Bernie and it switches 60-40. I'm oversimplifying this dramatically, but you get the point. Superdelegates were the Democrats' way of saying your vote does not count and never will. Now think about this process. You can't even trust the superdelegates because no one knows exactly what to do. So what do? It is too late now to have a primary for Democrats. Even Andrew Yang, he's tweeting out, he's like, I would never vote for Trump, but to say you're defending democracy while canceling your party's own primary. Okay. Even Andrew Yang is like, geez, this is brilliant. Joe Biden delays as long as possible and then drops out due to health concerns. Let's say just after Super Tuesday, it'd be massive news. And the DNC appoints a new presidential candidate. And they'll say it's unexpected and we wish President Joe Biden the best, but perhaps he's correct. Now, unfortunately, people, we do not have the time nor ability to hold a primary. Oh, whatever shall we do? I know. How about we just all say Gavin Newsom? I think it'll be Gavin Newsom. Maybe not. I mean, he's been, I don't know how direct he's been, but he basically said he's not going to run. When he was debating Ron DeSantis, for whatever reason he was like, the one thing we have in common is that neither of us is going to run for president or neither of us is going to be the nominee. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want to do it. And as I've predicted, now I've given a much bolder prediction of Joe Biden going, oh, my heart, and then falling over. And then Gavin Newsom throws his jacket off and runs out on stage and saves the life of the president. Think about how majestic that would be historically. Great story. And stories sell. It may just be something simpler than that. Biden says, I've been diagnosed with, something or other, or says, I did my job. I ran because Donald Trump was a threat to this country, but I recognized my age and getting on, and I want to pass the torch down. I think what's more likely to happen here, if this does happen, is that Joe Biden is likely going to suffer from some dramatic hit to his health. If Joe Biden just came out now and said, "Yeah, come on, man, I'm getting old," people would be like, "How dare you? You could have dropped that a long time ago." But if Joe Biden trips and falls or is attacked, this is the scarier thing. With everything that Joe Biden is doing on the southern border, with everything going on with, this is really, really funny. Let me say, with everything going on with January 6th, there's a lot of anger in this country, and it's scary. It is very terrifying. I wish the best for President Joe Biden and his clean health. And my fear is for the safety of everyone in this country because of how hot tensions are getting. But we were talking with these fellers over on the Culture War podcast. Check it out, by the way. We do it Friday mornings, 10 a.m. over on Tenet Media and all podcast platforms. And, they were saying they believe it's possible that Donald Trump or Elon Musk is the Antichrist. Certainly no one suggested Joe Biden was. But they said that if someone makes an attempt on his life and his eye or arm gets like scarred, that's a sign of the Antichrist. I think it's hilarious. Okay, sure, we'll be on the lookout. But could you imagine if something bad happens to Joe Biden, like he's attacked? Now that is a clean exit for Joe Biden. And that's why I tell everybody, the Republicans, for the longest time, we were like, impeach Joe Biden. And they're like, but then Kamala Harris, I don't care. Now it's kind of like, wait, don't impeach him. He's losing. So for those that want Donald Trump to win or the Republicans to win, the last thing you want is for anything bad to happen to Joe Biden. We must protect this man with all of our strength. In fact, I would recommend that, he had marks on his hand for like what looked like an IV treatment. And get Joe Biden all the top best medical he can get. Give the man a nice warm blanket, put him in his wheelchair, and make him comfortable. I want him eating the finest of steaks. And I want that nurse to come in and cut the steak for him and, get it nice and soft, tender. And I hope Joe Biden lives as comfortable as a king could live. Because come November, this man cannot win an election. So the best thing for this country, the only thing, is that this man runs for re-election and loses. Why? This is why I say always there has to be criminal trials. That vigilantism is not going to save us from this. Because we need to win the narrative. We need to own the narrative and the culture. And we need a trial, in this instance, an election, to say to the American people, this man is not fit, and we have chosen someone else. But that's why I think they will say, oh, heavens me, Joe Biden's heart. It just can't take the strain. And they'll try and bring someone else in. The New York Post, Bill Ackman, this is in November, says Biden passed his peak and urges him to drop out of the 2024 race. So be it. But right now, it's looking like nothing's going to stop Joe Biden. From SCNR.com, Missouri State Senator files bill to disqualify Biden from 2024 election ballot. Our country is being invaded because Joe Biden has swung our southern border wide open. Now, this story broke on Friday, which is like the worst time to release a story, so whatever. And now we're giving it that good old Monday morning boost because stories published on Fridays are where stories go to die. But yes, there is a move by many Republicans to disqualify Joe Biden. It's tough because part of me says, yes, please do it. And then part of me says, no, wait, don't. Joe Biden can't win. Okay, the reason they're disqualifying Donald Trump in these states, or trying to at least, is because Donald Trump will win. So the last thing we want to do is give them what they want. You know what we should do? Every single Republican should clap and cheer for Joe Biden and say, please run. We won't stand in your way. So while it is fun to see them trying to remove Joe Biden from the ballot, let us once again recognize we had Rep. Alex Mooney on the show last Friday. And I was like, don't impeach. Like, we must protect this man at all costs. He has failed this country and he will lose an election. And that's the way it should be. He did a bad job. He's going to run again. And everyone's going to say, dude, you did a bad job. We don't want you as president. And that is the way it should be. I get it. Say nobody expected it's going to be that way, huh? There's lawsuits already being filed. And we are entering lawfare. I mean, we've been in lawfare. Going back to 2016, it's been nothing but lawsuits. Lawsuits and, as I like to say, dirty games. And here we are. Well, I got good news for everybody. Good news. SCNR, Biden's re-election campaign, says they raised more than $1 million in 24 hours after January 6th speech. During Biden's speech, he claimed that democracy is on the ballot. Democracy, huh? Take a look at this from Senator Jean Shaheen. She's, I believe she's New Hampshire. She actually had the gall to tweet this out. Quote, "A democracy, if you can keep it," said Ben Franklin. January 6th was a stark reminder of just how fragile our democracy is. She went on and screen grabbed the whole thing. Community Notes on X pointed out, the correct quote is, "A republic, if you can keep it." These people are evil. That's all I can say. They are either zombies or they are evil. And I have to wonder. I mean, I believe that she deleted the tweet, but I have to wonder, because you get caught, when they keep saying our democracy. This country is not a democracy, nor has it ever been. But Democrats have been trying to force this country into a democracy for a long time. They want you to believe that democracy is the best form of government, is the appropriate form of government, and it's not, and it's never been. It's actually a terrible form of government. The idea that 50.1% will dictate for 49.9%. I explained this last week, but let me break it down for you again. Because those of you who have been brainwashed by these psychopaths, democracy is not tyranny of the majority. Democracy is not 50.1 over 49.9. Democracy will end up being 3% of the population controlling 97. And if you have been brainwashed by these people into believing democracy is the best way to do it because the majority shall rule, they lied to you and they tricked you into believing something that's wrong. In a democracy, it actually turns out that only a tiny, tiny fraction actually will control things. Why? Let's say, how can we best break down this mathematically? Let's say you have 10 people. Each of these people has three numbers assigned to them. The first person is 1, 2, 3. The next person is 3, 4, 5. The next person is 4, 5, 6, et cetera, et cetera. What you'll notice is that not every person has the same number, but there are some overlaps. So when it comes to the majority vote, it's hard to do with just three numbers, and to try and understand this. The majority of people may say we all like chocolate ice cream, and then they pass a vote. Okay, for dessert we have chocolate ice cream. 1 people of 100 voted for chocolate ice cream. 49% wanted vanilla. Now they have to eat chocolate. And that sounds like how democracy works. But the reality is there aren't just two choices. It is not just ice cream for dessert. In fact, it's, do you want sprinkles? Do you want cookies? So the number one was more complicated than this. This is easy. Let's say you're at a yogurt land. You ever go to yogurt land? And you have to choose which flavor of yogurt you want. Out of 100 people, 51 say we want plain tart. Tart yogurt is the best. And 49 wanted a bunch of different things. They lose. Everybody gets tart. Then they say vote on your toppings. Well, guess what? That 49 that wanted different flavors, they wanted something else. They didn't want sprinkles. They didn't want fruit. They wanted chocolate. What ends up happening is when everyone then votes on a topping and there's 20 different toppings, how many people wanted sprinkles? 51 out of 100. Boom. Now you got tart with sprinkles. How many people wanted avocado? 51 did want avocado, and I got avocado and sprinkles. Wait, hold on. They wanted avocado. Well, they like avocados. But they didn't want tart and they didn't want sprinkles. They wanted a different flavor. Point is this. What goes good with chocolate ice cream? Fruit? Kind of sometimes, but typically caramel, fudge, peanut butter. The only problem is half the people want fruit, half the people want chocolate. When all is said and done, and you whittle it down, you will end up with original tart flavor with peanut butter, asparagus, spinach, avocados, lemon wedges, and you're like, wait, but that sounds terrible. That's the point. How many people out of 100 wanted that total combination? It's very, very small. This is the issue with direct democracy. And we do have elements of this as a problem in this country. How many people actually agree with the policies of Joe Biden? 0. Seriously, 0. Maybe like 3% of the country actually like everything Joe Biden has done. And that's a reality. But that's the point of a republic. Each and every, you have different jurisdictions, and everyone can run their own jurisdiction as they want. We all agree on certain things. But this means as a republic, the states have sovereignty, and the states can provide that differing option for you who perhaps did not want what was being offered. It's an interesting concept that I think most people don't quite understand. 51% of people are not going to all agree on their toppings. They're not going to all agree on whipped cream. They're not going to all agree on their flavors. One by one, with the plethora of things to vote on, a democracy will result in a psychotic, broken system. I mean, a really simple example actually would be Occupy Wall Street. My analogies probably are too wacky and don't work, but let me give you a simple one. During Occupy Wall Street, you had what was called the General Assembly. Everybody just stood there and they all wiggled their fingers if they liked what was being proposed. They call it jazz hands. And you could do something called a hard block. Make an X with your hands. Hard blocks had to be addressed for moving forward because, well, democracy, right? So one day they said, we need to clean up. One of the problems that Occupy was having was that the rain was getting all the supplies soggy and wet. And they said, look, our clothes are getting soggy and wet. Our food's getting soggy and wet. It was raining a lot. It was rainy season. It was, September and October. So we need bins to put them in. So at a General Assembly meeting, someone said, I hereby propose we buy plastic bins that we can put all of our supplies in and seal them so they stay dry. Now, that's a simple proposal, right? In a democracy, you'd think, are most people just going to support or oppose it? That's not what happened. So when everyone voted, a lot of people said yes, but a lot of people said no. No, but we need the bins to keep things dry. So then someone said, hold on there. Why are you guys voting no? And they said, we don't want to buy bins to support plastic garbage that's destroying the planet. And then someone said, well, how about we get recycled bins? Well, okay, now we agree. All right, everybody. All in favor of buying recycled bins to put all our stuff in? No, protest. No. The recycled bins are still being used. That's still propping up these big corporate chains because these are Walmart bins. We want to make sure the bins were made fairly and the employees were treated properly. So we want a small business, fair trade certified, recycled bins. Okay, fine. All in favor. No, says the majority. No, but we all agree. No, because plastic, it doesn't matter. We can use biodegradable materials. Why are we going to keep reusing these things? As long as they're in use, even recycled, the plastics are going to keep getting made. Because now what happens is you buy from a small company, they're just going to make more. You buy recycled from one guy, he's going to buy a replacement. Biodegradable corn plastics. Okay, all in favor of biodegradable, fair trade, corn plastic, recycled bins. Hear, hear. What? It doesn't exist. So do you know what they did? They went to Walmart and they bought bins. I don't know if they actually went to Walmart. They went to the store and they bought bins. And they were like, just don't tell anybody. The reality was it was impossible based on their direct democracy to actually get it done. Because if everybody gets to vote on what they want, you get some psychotic nonsense. Fair trade, biodegradable, recycled plastic bins from a small business that treats their employees well and pays them at least $15 an hour. The list goes on. It was an absurdity, an impossibility. That's direct democracy. And then the issue is, with no one really in charge and no one to be held accountable, when they went and just bought whatever they wanted, how could anybody check? They just said, sure, yeah, whatever. And then one day they had like your standard store-bought plastic bins and nobody said anything. That's direct democracy. It's nonsensical. Now, don't get me wrong. These issues still exist even in a greater system, even in a better system, I should say, even in, our constitutional republic. It's not perfect, but a republic system creates it alleviates some of these problems. You elect someone that you think is good for the job, who can make the right choices. You know what that means? It means one day that person who wanted the fair trade walks in, goes to that rep and says, I wanted fair trade bins. Why are you buying these cheapo plastic ones? And they say, look, here's what we did. We bought them recycled, but they're the same old bins you buy anywhere else. Why? It's the best we could do. I made that choice. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I did everything I could. That individual can make the choice that makes the most sense without being bogged down by constant bickering and nonsense. And that's the point of my analogy about why democracy doesn't work. And this is what they keep saying. Joe Biden says it. Democracy is on the ballot. Incredible. Well, if you want to live in a nonsense world where nothing makes sense and everything's broken, democracy is the way to go. If you want to support the greatest nation this world has ever seen, the greatest nation in our history, the United States of America, you vote for the constitutional republic, the republic for which the flag stands. Right? If you can keep it. Donald Trump is not the perfect guy, but that's the point. The point is, you're not going to get a perfect guy. This idea does not make sense. So we vote for representatives who will run this country properly to the best of their abilities and hold people to account. Why? The reason why democracy is not going to work is very, very simple. It is not your job to be a politician. It is your job to do your job. And that means you may be a plumber, computer software engineer, who knows? Maybe you make competitive paper airplanes in a paper airplane league. Whatever it is you do that makes money, good for you. But your job isn't to study finances, the economy, read the news every day, argue with other individuals over political ideas and vote on bills. That's the job of a politician. And the point of our country is that we get to vote on who to hire in the public sector. And that person is hired for the job, and they'll either do a good job or a bad job. I think it's fair to say many of them are doing bad jobs. But that's it. We don't vote directly because then you would never get anywhere. The reason why the likes of Biden and the Democrats want, quote unquote, democracy, why they're trying to rewrite history and say our democracy over and over and over again, is because they know that a democratic system, a truly pure direct democracy, is chaos for which they can control it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas with a republic, the states can simply say, I object. I refuse. It's amazing, the system. We must repeal the 17th Amendment, mind you, because they have been pushing us towards direct democracy for too long. And it's a problem. And that being said, I agree with this guy. I think Joe Biden's going to drop out. I said it a few months ago. Joe Biden will drop out. I do not see a logical path for this man to run for office. I could be wrong. This guy could be wrong. But more and more people are saying it's going to be someone else. Because logically, Joe Biden, he's going to lose. Cenk Uygur is running and he's going to lose. Democrats saying he's going to lose. They're begging for a primary. They won't give one. Why? The Democrats don't want Bernie Sanders. They want Gavin Newsom. And if they open a primary, guess who wins? Cornel West, maybe? RFK Jr., perhaps. So here's the play. No primary. It's now too late. Joe Biden has a health episode and says, I can't run. I'll finish out my term, but I can't run. The DNC says, we have no time. We can't hold the primary. I think it's fair to say Gavin Newsom will step up to the plate. That way they can bypass that process and jam in whoever they want. So we shall see. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.